Can y'all hear me okay? Beautiful. We're going to get started. Thanks for being here this evening. You're at the Roseway Neighborhood Community October meeting. So hopefully that's where you think you are, because that's where you are. My name is Rachel Anderholder, and I'm the secretary for the Roseway Neighborhood Association, and I'll be emceeing and guiding us through the evening today. And just a quick announcement in Spanish. Si usted solo habla español, por favor, pasa al frente. Esta noche tenemos traducción a español en la pantalla. And also, if you are hard of hearing, feel free to come to the front row. We got lots of room up here, and we can put captions on the monitor as well. One more housekeeping thing, we do have restrooms to the south of the sanctuary. South is that way. Wow, that way. Thanks, Joan. So please follow the signs. And if you have limited mobility, there's a stair chair that goes to the basement that can take you to the restrooms as well. So please check in with somebody with one of these RNA shirts on if you need assistance with that to have some extra time. And then we also have participants on Zoom that are joining us this evening. Hello to our participants on Zoom. So if you're on Zoom, please help by observing our meeting ground rules, which should be linked in the chat, and we'll go over them here in a minute as well. And there's also a special addendum for those that are on Zoom. So before we break into too many things, I want to make sure that you all know what the Roseway Neighborhood Association is, if maybe this is one of your first times joining us. So the mission of Roseway is to maintain and enhance the livability of our neighborhood by making Roseway a better place to live, work, and play. We're a group of volunteers committed to making our neighborhood a better place. We help the neighborhood through a combination of fun and educational events, sharing information, collecting neighbors to resources, and collaborating with the city. We are not an HOA, and there are no dues charged as a part of RNA. There are several ways that you can get more involved and learn more about the Neighborhood Association. You might have seen there kind of some signs and QR codes aplenty around. So we also have a table in the back with our lovely Vice President Ash. And at that table, you can find resources about volunteering at different events. You can subscribe to our monthly e-bulletin with your email address. Right now, our monthly e-bulletin is on pause, but it'll get started up again in the new year, and it shares lots of great neighborhood news about how to get involved. You can also make a tax-deductible donation, and donations support making improvements and helping put on events in the neighborhood. You can become a general member, and general members are not officially on the board, but being a general member is basically saying you live in the neighborhood or you have a business in the neighborhood and you want to get involved. And all general members are eligible to vote for our board of directors, which is going to be a vote that's happening later in the evening. Membership in the association is free and open to all residents. And you can also see if you are a resident of Roseway by going to portlandmaps.com, select the magnifying glass, and enter in your address. You can attend a board meeting to get more involved. So we have these community meetings every quarter, but we have monthly board meetings, which are the second Tuesday of every month. And you can also become a board member. We're going to have board elections later in this meeting, and we'll share a little bit more of that coming up. All right, so meeting ground rules. We ask that being in this space today, we want to cultivate a positive environment for everyone to be in. And so we have the following ground rules that we ask that you abide by. Listen with an open mind, think before speaking, avoid exclusionary language, request nonviolent communication, let everyone participate, show up on time, nicely done, and come prepared, stay mentally and physically present, contribute to meeting goals, stay on point and on time, attack the problem, not the person, close decisions and follow up, and record outcomes and share. So those are the things that we as a board are also committed to as well. All right, that is my housekeeping, and now we're going to get into the agenda for the evening. So we're going to start this meeting with a little bit of internal Roseway Neighborhood Association business, and then we have some amazing special guests from Portland Bureau of Transportation and TriMet that will come to the stage a little bit later on. So after I get off the stage, we're going to hear from our board president, Chris Hansen, who's going to share the annual report of what we've accomplished so far in 2025 and what RNA is looking forward to in 2026. From there, we'll move on to our board elections, which I'll share a little bit more about in a minute. And then after that, we'll welcome our guest speakers. We have Jerry Stroop from PBAT, the Portland Bureau of Transportation, who's going to share more about safe routes to school and the Vision Clearance Initiative. And then we also have Julia Reed from PBAT and Paulina Salgado Carvajal from TriMet, who will share more about upcoming East 2nd Avenue improvements. Okay, so before I invite Chris to the stage this evening to go over our annual report, I just want to share a little bit more about what it means to join the RNA board. We're going to have elections after Chris shares his report, so I want to make sure you might be like, what does it mean to be on the board? I know that when I joined the board, I was like, what does it mean to be on the board? And then here we are, and it's great. But to share a little bit more, and you can mull it over whether you might want to nominate yourself or nominate somebody else to join the board before the elections. So as I mentioned, the RNA board is a dedicated group of volunteers. Actually, if you're on the board, will you just raise your hand a little bit right now? Stand up. Yeah, so we've got a great, really awesome group of people. And we work to further the mission of making Roseway a better place to live, work, and play. Board members contribute their time to the neighborhood, as well as their passion, their expertise, and their interests. The board values different skill sets and lived experiences and aims to have a culture that is inclusive, joyful, and fun, and also getting stuff done and tackling big projects together. What does that mean in real life, right? What does that mean in practical terms? So we ask that board members attend 8 out of 10 of our board meetings every year. As I said, meetings are held on the second Tuesday of every month, except for August and December. We also ask that board members attend 3 out of 4 of these quarterly community meetings, like the one that we're at tonight. And those are held in January, April, July, and October. There is work that happens on projects in between meetings, getting things done with committees and moving projects forward. And a lot of that work is done over email and sometimes on additional Zoom meetings. And then the RNA board hosts community events throughout the year. So you might have come to the big Plaza Grand opening party that we had, or we're having a solstice event in December. And so we ask that board members attend and participate in 2 of those events throughout the year. If you choose to nominate yourself and run for an election today, you'd be agreeing to a 2-year term. And on average, we estimate that board members contribute between 4 to 6 hours of volunteer time per month, though some members contribute more depending on the projects or committees that they're working on. If you'd like to learn more about what board membership look like and what we're looking for in board members, Ash at the back table has a little bit more information about expectations, and she can also share more information about what it means to be on the board. And if you're not able to commit today, no problem. It's possible to join the board at a future meeting as well.
Okay. Thank you for listening to my long introduction. And from
Here, I'm going to hand it off to Chris Hansen to share our annual report.
Thank you. Hello. Yeah. Thank you so much, Rachel. Yeah, that was a great introduction to who we are, what we do, and part of what we do is what we've accomplished in the last year. And so not only is it part of what we do to have an annual report to basically summarize what we've been doing in the last year, it's also really timely because it lets you know, here are the things that we've been focused on in the last year, what we've accomplished, and what you could be involved in if you become a board member. So it's a good time to do that. And so Chris, if you wouldn't mind switching over to that accomplishments page. Yeah, so, and this is up live on our website. So if you go to roseway.org, you can see this in more detail. I'm not going to read it word for word by any means, but I just want to give you a sense of what are the major things that we worked on this year that we're particularly proud of that had a result for the neighborhood. There's some background work, of course, to getting that done, things that need to be voted on and logistics. Here, we're really trying to focus on outcomes. So we'll just kind of scroll down and and get right to it. So Chris, you can kind of scroll down to the first section. One of the cornerstones that's actually relatively new for us are these community meetings. We used to have meetings where we combined our board meetings with, inviting in the community, but we found that one, it wasn't as curated content and didn't get as much attendance as our community meetings. So we moved to this format of having quarterly meetings where we really put a lot of thought into what's going to be interesting to neighbors, what we get input from neighbors, and adjust accordingly. So for instance, in January, we had a brand new city government, and it was a great time to bring in our city leaders, our newly elected city councilors. And so we had a town hall in which our city councilors talked about their priorities. We were able to ask questions. It was a very well-attended event. I think over 100 attendees between in-person and Zoom. And the city councilors were really impressed with the input they got from the neighborhood, from neighbors and the organization of the event. Steve Novick frequently says that he's afraid of turning down the Roseway Neighborhood Association because he knows how much trouble he'd be in if he did that. So we're counting on that for them to come back here next January, which I think will be super interesting, because before they were talking about plans, they've had a hot minute in office. Now they will have been here a year, and there's a lot that they can talk about in terms of accomplishments and challenges. So we're looking forward to that. Then in our April meeting, one of the two things that we decided to focus on this year was, one, the Roseway Plaza, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but the other was really doubling down on emergency preparedness. And for the neighborhood association, a lot of that was raising awareness. So we had somebody from the Portland Bureau of Emergency Management give a presentation about preparedness for an earthquake and other major disasters. And it's also the intro to Roseway Prepares, which is our sibling organization that really focuses exclusively on emergency preparedness. We have some information and some folks here who can explain more about Roseway Prepares, but that meeting was really a good kickoff for that organization. And then in July, we did a different tack. Like a lot of times in the middle of the summer, the last thing somebody wants to do is be inside on a beautiful evening. So instead, we had a picnic, and we had a great gathering of folks that came together in our parkway and just celebrated and socialized, etc. So that was a nice change, but we also are looking for input on whether we should continue to do that. So then, of course, here we are tonight. We'll update this accomplishments page as we do things through the rest of the year. But I wanted to move on to a different topic than the community meetings, and that is really the Roseway Plaza and its street mural among the features of it. So this has been something that's been in the works for literally years, and it's taken a ton of effort from a lot of people to make it a reality. But now at 72nd and Mason, thanks to an outstanding partnership between the Neighborhood Association and PBOT, we have a carless street plaza in a neighborhood area, residential area. So it's not in the middle of a commercial area with bars and restaurants. It's a different thing and a different purpose. And we've heard from neighbors that they really appreciate having that gathering place. But to make it happen, we worked with PBOT, which provided the bollards, tables. The city provided a trash can that they support and pick up on a regular basis. We also got funding for the street mural and some other features to really make it an inviting place for people to come and gather, have a lunch, play. We see tons of kids out there just practicing their, riding on their bikes in a protected place. So it's been a huge accomplishment to have that space, and it really culminated in September in our grand opening, where we all celebrated with our neighborhood. There's a bouncy house, free food, city councilors and other city officials joined, and we did a ribbon cutting. So great work by all. I want to acknowledge especially Catherine Clark for leading the charge to make that a so yeah, Chris, if you scroll down. And then, yeah, related to that, and also something that Catherine devotes a ton of energy to, along with a fleet of volunteers, is keeping the Roseway Parkway in general healthy for the trees, the lawn, etc. That involves the cutting crew that cuts the grass, lots of pruning of the trees, selection of new trees. We're in the process of having arboretum status for the parkway. And I guess I should back up and say the parkway is basically the entire median of grassy, tree-lined area between Sandy and Prescott along 72nd Avenue. So that's considered the Roseway Parkway. So we have pollinator patches, and I'm going to forget a thing or two in here, but yeah, a lot of work to make it a vibrant place for people to play, run, walk their dog, have a picnic, and have a Halloween parade, which is coming up very shortly.
I'm sorry, who maintains that?
It is officially PBOT property, so it's technically a PBOT median, but PBOT will mow it a few times a year, and we fill in the rest through the neighborhood to mow it more frequently. And then likewise, urban forestry does some planting, but then most of the maintenance, care, pruning, etc. is done by neighbors. And more neighbors, the better. We're always looking for volunteers to help us with those activities. And so there's a sign-up sheet in back where you can volunteer to help if you'd like. And so, yeah, I mentioned the April meeting where we talked about Roseway Prepares. And so Roseway Neighborhood Association continues to help that group. We have several board members who are involved in Roseway Prepares, and stay tuned for more there about education, about emergencies. There's a lot of good information right now on our website at roseway.org. And Roseway Prepares has been representing in pretty much all of the events that we've had lately. And so, yeah, other events that we've had some ones that we've been able to keep pretty low key and not a big financial commitment. But we had a great Earth Day event where there's a plant swap, seed swap, and celebrating Earth Day. So we participated in Sunday Parkways that went through our new plaza, so that was very fun. And then Dumpster Day is a great opportunity for people to get rid of trash, get it out of their house, out of their garage, and that also is a fundraiser for Roseway, the biggest single revenue generator of our organization. So thank you if you participated and donated through that event. And then coming up, we'll have a winter solstice celebration in December. So please join us for that again around the plaza. And we sing songs, do poetry. I think the mandala will be involved, and so it's a great way to celebrate passing the season. And so I'll just briefly, so that we can move on with the rest of our agenda here. Our communication and outreach is a big part of what we do as well, keeping people informed, not just through these meetings, but also through our newsletter and social media. So we are active on Facebook and Instagram, keeping people informed, roughly 100 posts a year. So especially stay tuned via those channels now, because our intrepid e-bulletin editor is taking a paternity leave or a family leave. And so our e-bulletin, you may have noticed, we have not sent one in a couple months. And I think one impact of that is we usually have more people here in person. I hope that other people didn't miss the news about this because we didn't send out a bulletin. But that's something we'll need to look into, because it's a very valuable thing that we provide. If you're interested in filling in, providing that kind of service, that would be awesome. Please let us know. But again, in the meantime, do stay tuned via Facebook and Instagram. Again, if you go to this page, there will be links to all of that. We have some other endeavors as well that we could mention, but in the interest of time, I'm gonna say that we have sponsored the Rocky View Farmers Market. They continue to have a mission that's very consistent with ours, and they're right here in the neighborhood. And then we also sponsored the Scott School Kermes Festival. So I'm going to leave it at that, but basically a lot of stuff going on that happens through the good work of the neighborhood association. So again, if that is at all interesting to you, or if you think there's something missing, something that you're passionate about that we're not covering, please do consider nominating yourself for a board position, or if you just met somebody, nominate them. That's fine too. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Catherine for a brief treasurer's report, kind of snapshot of where we are financially, and I'll talk a little bit about upcoming plans, and we'll move on with board elections. Yes, so good. Brittany hazards everywhere.
Good evening. This is our typical treasury report that I complete every month. Right now, we're in the process of moving all of our funds from US Bank to Point Community Credit Union. But we have to have votes and motions and papers to move the money. But in total, between the two financial institutions, we have $17,201.11. Right now, we still have $4,195.61 at US Bank, split between checking and savings. I've moved $8,000 out of that account in the past month over to Point Credit Union. We get a lot better interest rate over there on our money, better than 0.05%. So we made 11 cents in interest in the last month. Our transactions are shown there are a debit charge for annual domain name, roseway.org, and the debit transfer to OnPoint account. In our OnPoint account, we currently have $13,005.50 divided between a business checking, a nonprofit money market that pays 4.25%, and a business savings that just has $5 in it that we were required to open. You can see our current transactions there for some Southeast Upland grant reimbursement, a regular Squarespace monthly charge, and a $5 translation service from Zoom. And then most of the money is in the nonprofit money market account, the interest earning account, the $10,915.88. So we have some other funding sources. We have some remaining funds from a Southeast Upland Community Grant, 57 cents from a Regional Arts and Culture Council grant, the communications grant from Southeast Upland, the Roseway Cutting Crew, which is donation based to pay for mower maintenance and gas and oil, and then Give Lively donation fund of $313. And I would just like to say we brought in about $7,800 in grant funding this past year from the Regional Arts and Culture Council, from Southeast Upland Community Grant, from an Office of Community and Civic Life. And then also our dumpster day, we brought in almost $5,000 from that. So a lot of this money does come from, for the events, comes from grant funding for the past year. Any questions about I'm always happy to answer any questions about funding. Yeah.
How do you feel about grant funding for the future?
Well, there are small grants available. I'm not sure, as far as the large grants, I don't know how long they're going to be around. But there are a lot of small grants for projects like this, like for the Plaza mural, or our party. The party was a once in a lifetime event. We were a little surprised we got a grant for it, but it was a big deal for the neighborhood and for the community to have this plaza open and to have this beautiful mural. And it was so fun. I hope you made it out to the party. So, okay.
Thank you, Catherine, for all your work as treasurer, as well as the other things that you do. And yeah, thank you. And I'll just mention another part of that kind of like long-term picture is one of the reasons that we have some reserves here is for sudden things that could come up that we would need to spend money on. And so we have some reserves. That's nice, but we are very conscious of like how we can fundraise. And again, The dumpster day is a great fundraiser for us. Those donations that come in, people can go and drop off stuff and not pay anything, but people have been very generous in Roseway to donate when they do bring by things in at dumpster day. So keep that up. That's a huge, major source of funding for us. So upcoming plans. A lot of that depends on the new board that we'll have coming up in this next month. So some of the things we anticipate doing, though, we do want to continue to stay in touch with the city, both our city councilors, who we have a great relationship with, and we expect that to continue if new ones are elected, and working with PBOT and other bureaus within Portland to help with our mission. And then Roseway Plaza, it's got a great baseline now, but we want to keep adding things, sunshades, other things that help make it a hospitable place to be. We want to add neighborhood identity signage along Sandy Boulevard and elsewhere. We'd like to host a summer free-for-all concert in the park again, so that's on the radar for next year. And we'll continue to keep you all informed about things that are going on in the city and in the neighborhood to keep you all engaged. So join the board and help us decide what else to do. We have a big planning session. We'll kick that off in November. We have a big planning session January, February of next year. So please do join us. And if you just want to volunteer for a one-off thing here and there, there's a QR code and a way to sign up where you can talk to Ash or others on the board about that. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Rachel for board elections.
Thank you so much, Chris and Catherine. And yeah, it's really exciting to see all of the amazing things that have happened in Roseway over this past year, and grateful to all of the board members and volunteers that have done such a great job in making that happen, and excited to hopefully welcome some new folks to the board today. So as Chris was just saying, there's so many ways that you can contribute to this neighborhood. You can participate on a committee, work on a specific project, and you don't have to be a member of the board in order to contribute in any way. That said, becoming a board member, joining the board of directors, it's an additional level of commitment and investment, and the board sets policy and determines priorities for the overall neighborhood association throughout the year. So every October at our general membership meeting, aka today, we conduct our board elections in accordance with our organizational bylaws. Our general members can nominate candidates and vote for the board of directors, and the board can have up to 15 directors. This year we have 2 incumbents that will be running for re-election, and we have 3 vacant seats. So the candidates with the most votes will be elected to those 5 seats that we have open. And if you are nominated and accept the nomination, we'll ask you to come up to the stage and just share really briefly why you want to be a part of the board. So just a heads up that we'll be asking folks to do that. So first I'll read off the board of directors whose terms are expiring and would like to run again. The first is Chris Hansen, our current president. And then the second is Sarah Givney, who can't make it this evening, but is still wanting to run for re-election and does not have to be present in order to do that. And now we would like to open it up to the general members here. Do we have anybody who would like to nominate themselves or like to nominate another member to become a member of the board? Yay! Excellent! Wonderful. What's your, well, I'll get your name when you come up to the stage. Thank you so much. Anybody else? I feel like I should be an auctioneer right now. Like, going once. So have we told you how much fun it is? Did you see all the things we did?
Good way to have some nap, but a lot of times people really enjoy the relationships that are created through it, and it's a new exposure to the community you live and participate in, and you help make decisions, which is awesome of her, and to be stewards to help make sure that the legacy of Roseway is what we want to make it, especially in a time right now that is at such risk. More important than ever to make sure that we stand our ground to a beautiful future. If you can't tell, Ash recruited several of us. I would believe it.
And as I mentioned earlier, if you're like thinking about it, you're on the fence and today is maybe not the day for you, that's okay. We can, if there are open spots available, which at this point, it looks like there probably will be moving forward. You can come to one of our general meetings and we can also elect people. I was elected at a general meeting, got it, one of these committees the first time. So if you're thinking about it, maybe talk to one of us in these little gray shirts today, and we can share more and there will be more opportunities in the future. Yes. Yeah, okay, great. Yay! I'm like, oh, you have a question? You're like, no, nominating myself. Great. Amazing. All right, well, I would love for Chris and our other two nominees to come up to the stage if you wouldn't mind, and please to try and avoid all of these scary cords. If you want to come up the stairs on this side, that would be great. Come on up. You're the next contestant on Join the Roseway board. So we'll just ask that everybody give a quick introduction and maybe share one or two things about why you would like to be on the board. It's not a test, keep it to about a minute, whatever comes to mind. We're excited to hear from you. And I think before I pass it off, I'm going to read Sarah's blurb just to, so Sarah Gibney, who couldn't make it this evening, did share a little blurb that I'll read on her behalf. So we will put her up here for all of you to vote on, and she's great. So Sarah says, hello, Rosewarians. Sorry I can't be at tonight's meeting. I'm traveling for work, but wanted to share a quick note. I'd love to continue serving on the Roseway Neighborhood Association board. I've been on the board since September 2021, and I really believe in the power of community building, especially the kind that brings neighbors together in meaningful ways. As a social worker, I bring skills in collaboration, advocacy, and making sure all voices are heard, plus a lot of practice in navigating group dynamics. I'd be glad to keep contributing and help move things forward. Thanks for being here tonight. So that's from Sarah. And I'm gonna write her name a lot bigger. Come on up.
Good call. I'll keep it brief. I mean, I think you can see that I'm passionate about the neighborhood and the neighborhood association. I'm Chris Hansen. I've been president of the neighborhood association for a few years now, on the board a bit longer. But I lived in Roseway for years before getting involved in the neighborhood association. And just echoing what Ash said, it's just a whole different level of connection to our community. And it's just been really meaningful for me to be connected to you all in a way that's just much deeper than being in my house and happening to see the next door neighbor every once in a while. So I've gotten a ton out of it, and I would be honored if I were able to serve for another 2 years. Thank you.
Go first, do speeches on the spot, just want to like introduce yourself and.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Hi, everyone. My name is Sol Cruz. I am a relatively new resident. I moved here last spring. We've been here for about 2 years overall in Portland. And I previously lived in Austin, where I was a member of our HOA. So I have some relevant experience, but this I think would be less painful. Probably like more goodwill in the community. I've been to a couple of different meetings, the community meetings, as well as one board meeting via Zoom. And I just kind of have an interest in what's going on in the neighborhood. I love Roseway. A lot of people in Portland don't know it, and I'm just like, it's a great neighborhood. So I'd like to just support community how I can, and kind of lend a hand.
Yay.
Hi, I'm Courtney Barron. I moved to Portland in 2018. We lived in the neighborhood for a little over 3 years. My husband and I, and we have a 2-year-old. And I did not come here tonight with the intention of joining. This is my first meeting, but hey, why not? I would really like to be involved in the community and do anything I can to go ahead and make it better. Awesome. Thank you.
You did?
Yes.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much to Courtney and Saul for putting their names out and for Chris and Sarah for running again. So what we are going to do now, after you've heard from the candidates and from our incumbent board members, if you're here in person, we have some handy dandy QR codes that Ash is going to be passing around. So please scan the QR code and you can write down the names of up to 5 nominees. We have 4 and I can put that down closer to the bottom so people can see it as well. And if you are attending on Zoom, please submit an electronic ballot and there should be a link in the chat in order to do so. And we also have some paper up here. If you are not feeling a QR code and you would rather do a handwritten, we can just raise your hand and we can make sure you get a paper ballot. So you are going to have 15 minutes to vote where while our guest speakers are happening, Ash and I are going to be tallying things behind the scenes. And a secretary, I'll double check that you are eligible to vote by living in the neighborhood. And I'll check in with folks if there are any concerns. So I'm going to give it a minute for Ash to pass those out and we will transition to our next speakers, but I'm just going to do it slowly so that you aren't still voting when our next speaker comes to the stage. So please welcome to the stage Jerry Stroop from the Portland Bureau of Transportation. And Jerry's going to speak with us tonight about the Safe Routes to School and the Vision Clearance Initiative. So Jerry, would you please come up to the stage and is everybody doing okay with the QR code? Any issues? Great, awesome.
Great. Hi, thank you. I'm gonna take just a second here and I'm gonna share some slides. If I can figure out that technology. There we go. It looks like I'm sharing it on my screen, but I'm not seeing it there.
It's our fault. We're
Okay. While they're getting that sorted out, thank you all for having me. My name is Jerry Stroop, she, her pronouns, and I work with the Portland Bureau of Transportation, or PBAT, in the Safe Routes to School program. So I'm really, okay, we're getting closer. I really appreciate you all inviting me to be here today. If this is too complicated, we could do the PDF instead. No, it's okay.
It's my first night.
I'm going to bring up your PDF
PDF.
to start
Great.
with, and then we'll switch over to yours here as soon as possible.
Well, I don't mind doing the PDF. We can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing and then you'll share through there.
Yeah.
Cool. That works.
So recommendation, if you want to say next slide, if you want.
Thank you.
Okay, good to you. Okay.
So I'll at least share what I'm planning to speak to you all about is to give you a really high level overview of the Safe Routes to School program at PBAT. I'm going to talk a little bit about our work in infrastructure in particular, because I'm the infrastructure coordinator. So that's the topic I know the most about.
and why I am here today. And then I'm going to share a little bit about some of the Safe Routes to School projects that we are doing in this neighborhood and some other PBAT projects that are not Safe Routes funded, but you might be interested in knowing about or being aware of. This works. Scrolling works. Are we good?
Yeah.
Sorry, Derek.
No, no worries. Okay. So a little bit just about the Safe Routes to School program at PBAT. Oh, and I'll just say, if there are any clarifying questions you have as I speak tonight, please raise your hand if it can just help you understand the material I'm presenting a little bit better. But I'll try to reserve a little bit of time for some discussion at the end of my slides here. So the Safe Routes to School program at PBAT our mission is to make it safe, convenient, and fun for children of all abilities to walk, bike, and roll to school. As far as Safe Routes to School programs nationwide, Portland has one of the longest standing programs. Safe Routes to School has been around since 2005, so 20 years old. And when the program started, it was really focused on education and encouragement. So I've got that picture, the kind of picture on the left, activities that we have happening in schools with pedestrian and bike safety education, encouragement, that tends to be a lot of activities, taking kids out on field trips and getting them to experience their streets and practice some of the skills that they learn in the classroom. So those two elements are really focused on behavior change. And the third element of infrastructure is really relatively new to Safe Routes to School in Portland. We did not really focus on infrastructure until we had funds that were dedicated for Safe Routes to School. And that came from the 2016 Fixing Our Streets ballot initiative. So that was the first time that Portland voters, thank you all very much, decided to dedicate funding and tax ourselves through gas tax and heavy vehicle use tax to make improvements on our streets, including around our schools. So that was an $8 million allocation in 2016. And at that point, our team then decided, and this is before my time, I've been in this role just under 2 years. But at that point, they undertook a really big planning process to identify infrastructure needs citywide. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that tonight. At a very high level, so across all of our work, we coordinate very closely with schools and school districts. So when we talk about the community engagement that our program does as Safe Routes to School, it is very tied to our schools. So that is part of why we don't come out to neighborhood associations very often, because there are a lot of neighborhood associations across the city. And we focus a lot on really building our relationships with schools and school districts to understand what they are hearing from their families, parents, caregivers, and the students going to their schools about the traffic safety priorities and issues they have. All right, so I'm not controlling the slides here. You can roll to the next one. Just to give you a picture of that community that we serve, it's over 100 schools citywide. A lot of you probably know that Portland Public Schools, or PPS, is our biggest school district, but we also have David Douglas School District, and then Parkrose, and then we have a few schools in Centennial and Reynolds School District, so on the far east side of the city. So this visual just shows that breakdown by school district on the left and also by council district on the right. So you can see by council district, we're much more evenly distributed in terms of the number of schools. You can go to the next slide. And actually, that's just by students. It's very similar, the number of students. And so you can go to the next slide as well. Thank you. Okay, so I told you I'm going to focus on infrastructure, but I have to tell you a little bit about what we do in education. My colleague, Megan Russell, is a full-time employee focused on education. So pedestrian, bike safety education, and something we call our Transportation Academy, which is a modular curriculum for high schoolers. So folks that have a little more lived experience about all things transportation. So even working to help them understand things about like how transportation is related to climate justice. So we Megan uses a train the trainer model because she cannot be in every classroom across every school doing this work. So she works primarily to have physical education teachers deliver these curriculums. They're all age appropriate and aligned with curriculum requirements. And over time, she's been making really great progress in getting this embedded, not just in individual schools, but at the district level. So that's really what we're looking to do, is just have this be adopted and not just encouraged by the districts, but something that districts just expect. All of their schools are going to have this curriculum embedded. And she's done a phenomenal job with that. You can go to the next slide on engagement. My colleague Guy Fonseca is our youth engagement and circulation lead. So he's one of the folks that helps take kids out of the classroom and take them on field trips. He recently took some high schoolers from McDaniel High School doing a walk audit along 82nd Ave so they could talk about what that experience feels like, talk about what's changing as the landscape is changing with the new project underway. And then we also do things like hosting summer internships for high school students in Portland at the Bureau. School circulation, I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but it's really intended to help with traffic flows right around schools during arrival and dismissal, because every school struggles with that because it's just everyone's working to get there right before the bell rings. So we'll go to the next slide. And really the bread and butter of what I wanted to talk to you all about today is our infrastructure work. And this is an exciting moment to be talking about this with you all, because I know I mentioned back in 2017, we created a plan of our infrastructure priorities, but we have just been doing a refresh and updating the map and platform where you can go and look at all of those infrastructure priorities. And it's way more user-friendly. It's a really great place where you can kind of look at all of the different places that we're focused across the city and check it out and do some filtering and that kind of stuff. So I'm just really excited that we're finally rolling it out. It's a lot easier for staff to update and work with on the back end too. So I'm just, any of you work with maps and interactive platforms online, can nerd out with me on that. This map is comprised of a priority network and our project list. And really, we think of this as our long-term investment strategy. It's the first place we look when we have funding available. And some of you might already be familiar with this. I'm curious if we'll go to the next slide here. If folks have seen this map platform before. Is this familiar to anybody or hearing about it, called as Safe Routes to School Primary Investment Routes? Okay, no big deal. But this particular platform and map is now retiring, we'll call it. It's going off into the sunset. And the new map that we're rolling out, we're also using this opportunity, not just for it to be in a new platform, but to kind of refresh the branding and nomenclature for it. So we're calling it our infrastructure plan. And like you saw, it's comprised of that priority network and projects. Now, I want to be really clear that when I say priority network, that does not mean that the lines on this map are safe routes to school. They're not our suggested routes to school or recommended routes to school. And that's a really big kind of misinterpretation that a lot of folks have when they look at a map that the Safe Routes to School program produced. So this must be Safe Routes to School. But in fact, this is just our long-term investment strategy. It's what we're looking to build out in terms of a lower stress network over time. That being said, you can move to the next slide. And I do want to point out that there are other maps that we really encourage families to use to identify how they get to school. So Portland PBAT makes bike and walk maps. They show all of our existing infrastructure. They get updated periodically. And we encourage students and families to look at those and identify what is the route to school, what are the streets they would take to get to school that makes the most sense based on their skill level and confidence. Because every student is different every child is different in terms of their development and understanding of traffic signs, traffic laws, and regulations. We also have a school circulation map. So I've talked about this before. We do work with about 10 to 12 schools every year to support them in making a circulation map. We're really trying to encourage schools to take that on themselves, because when we have found that when principals are the ones leading that and being the primary messenger about the preferred circulation patterns around the school, we have a lot more success. And so we work with school leadership to identify some best practices when it comes to those circulation maps and provide some messaging and tips on how to really normalize and kind of shift culture at schools when it comes to arrival and dismissal patterns. Okay, so we can jump to the next slide. And I want to go back again here to where this network and projects came from, because when the program first had those funds back in 2016, pop quiz, how much was it? Does anyone remember? Fixing Our Street? 2016? 8 million. You guys are good. So the first thing they did was take a really robust planning process and did a lot of outreach with schools, and also hired a consultant to do some technical analysis. And what they came up with was this new, was our infrastructure plan. We think of this too as just, these are the streets that we know most students and families are most likely to travel. Okay, so we can jump to the next slide, and I just want to note that I'll share links, and I've got some links in this presentation. Hopefully that can get sent around, where you can go to our website and learn more about this map, check it out. But we also have a tutorial video that you could watch alongside your own kind of exploring the map, just to check it out and see the different bells and whistles it has. And we'll go to the next slide. Great. Just a little bit about funding, because people are always curious. You know, we say we want to work on delivering all these projects as funding becomes available, but there's not a lot of funding available compared to the need. So what I do want to acknowledge is that we've been very, very fortunate to be able to start from that seed of $8 million for Safe Routes to School capital projects to to just over $40 million to date. And that's a combination of PBAT funds. So from Fixing Our Streets, having that renewed in 2020 and 2024, a one-time allocation of general fund dollars, and the Portland Clean Energy Fund is funding some programmatic quick build work at PBAT. So that's represented in the turquoise. But we've also been able to use some of those Fixing Our Streets funds as local match to go after grants. And the Oregon Department of Transportation, so our state agency, they have a Safe Routes to School program and a competitive construction grant program that we've used to go after funds for the big projects that have a much higher price tag. And then the $5 million that you see there in green is from the PPS school district bond. So that was related to redevelopment that PPS is doing on a number of schools, and then allocating funds directly to PBAT for us to make safety improvements beyond just the school frontage. If you jump to the next slide, you can see kind of our progress to date. And we've completed over 350 projects on our network, but we still have a really long way to go. So the completed is that piece of the pie in blue. The orange are the projects that are in the pipeline right now, and then the light transparent orange are all the other projects we want to build. One thing I want to point out here is that among the projects that we've completed, only about half of those have come from Safe Routes to School specific funding. The rest of them have come from other PBAT projects or programs. So area plans that you may be aware of, or neighborhood greenways, like the ones you've got here, like Mason Skidmore Greenway, corridor safety projects. Thank you, 82nd Avenue. and local transportation infrastructure charges and private development. So those are all other sources of funding that help us build out our network citywide. A lot of the projects that we undertook in the early years after getting funding for capital projects were some of the lower hanging fruit as well. So some of the projects that were a little more straightforward in scope. And now we're getting to a lot more of the projects that are more complex. They might have more complexity in terms of what's above ground, right-of-way impacts, or what's underneath the ground in terms of stormwater and drainage requirements. We can jump to the next slide. I mentioned we've just released this map on a new platform. We're also using this opportunity to do some very fine-tuning of the network and projects. That does not mean we're overhauling it. We're looking to fill some gaps in our network that are kind of obvious connections. And just take a second look at the projects to make sure that, you know, given the way our streets and land uses have changed over the last 7 years, do they still make sense? Have travel patterns shifted? Trip generators moved in terms of, you know, building entrances being in a new place or a new apartment and multifamily development. Okay, so the next slide is just a bunch of links where you can go to access a lot of the information that I'm sharing. And I lead with the link to this map, to our program webpage, but I also am including a link to just to PBOT more broadly, for if you want to learn about other PBOT construction projects, and to the Public Works Service Area, because PBOT is now a part of a much bigger Public Works Service Area. And there might be other projects happening in your neighborhood or near your schools that are not safe routes projects, but could be priorities from Parks or Bureau of Environmental Services, or Portland Water. So, well, now I want to talk a little bit about some of the other infrastructure related work we're doing. So you can go to the next slide. Oh, those are our Public Works Service areas. Thank you. Go to the next one. Okay, I wanted to tell you about vision clearance. How many people are familiar with that term? Okay, I want to just get a sense of that because it's a little bit wonky, and it's called a lot of different things. It can sometimes be called parking setbacks or daylighting an intersection, but it's essentially enforcing a parking restriction 20 feet set back from a crosswalk. And that could be at an intersection, so at corners, or it could be at a mid-block crossing. And PBOT has guidelines about when and where we implement vision clearance. And with a lot of new capital projects going in, we always make sure to implement vision clearance. But one of the things that we've been really wanting to do for a long time at Safe Routes and are finally getting underway is doing vision clearance directly around school. And that is in large part because of community and school communities saying this is a really high priority, and for us having a very supportive council at this point in time. And so the funding that is being used for the vision clearance we're doing right now is from a safety fund that is separate from our Safe Routes to School. So just, you know, money of a different color. But it is allowing us to do a phased approach where this fall we are rolling out vision clearance at 18 schools. So by the end of this calendar year, 18 schools will have vision clearance, and we don't have funding secured and identified yet to do the remainder of schools citywide, but we are committed to seeking that out. So we're really excited and committed to expand vision clearance across the city. We also have been doing some work to support our bike buses. I've mentioned, you know, described a lot of the work that our team does, but we are still pretty small. We don't create bike buses at schools or walking school buses, but we do really want to encourage that. And we know, just like a lot of the other work I've talked about, like school circulation, that's really best led. Bike buses, walk buses are best led when it's the school community really taking ownership and leadership in that regard. We received some funding through Metro Metro's Safe Routes to School program to do a wayfinding pilot. So that's what in my PowerPoint, I had a nice picture of it so you could actually see some of the wayfinding we had. But if you travel along some of our neighborhood greenways near schools, you might come across some pavement markings that say bike bus. On some of our neighborhood greenway signs, we've added a rider, so a smaller sign at the bottom that says bike bus. It's bright yellow. It's like one big bike followed by like little bikelings, like ducklings. It's very cute. And so that's been really well received, and we'll be evaluating that this year. And then hoping, based on what we learn, whether we might scale that up in the future. Okay, so I want to touch base on just a couple other projects that we have funded in this neighborhood. So you can jump to the next one. I mentioned one source of funding is our PPS bond, and we are getting down to the bottom of the barrel in that fund, but with just the last few projects. And one of them is a crossing improvement at Northeast Sandy Boulevard at 74th. So the project that we are planning there will include a rapid flashing beacon that will be on a new mast arm above Sandy Boulevard. We'll be striping crosswalks, adding new ADA ramps, and to have that support a nice connection to Roseway Roseway Heights Middle School, I'm sorry. We realigned the crosswalk at Fremont, so removed it from 75th and have now marked both sides of 74th for that kind of continuous connection to the school. There are another few projects that kind of are relevant to this area too, the 70s Neighborhood Greenway and the Mason Skidmore Neighborhood Greenway. The Fremont crossing, so I mentioned that 74th crossing with new marked crosswalks, just a few blocks over at 75th. We've also added cross bikes to the Neighborhood Greenway crossing. So that was one other part of that project. Any questions about this project in particular? Are people familiar with the rapid flashing beacon? Okay, great. Then the next project is over right behind McDaniel High School. So at Northeast 77th and Northeast Alameda, we are planning to stripe a crosswalk, a marked crosswalk on the south leg of that intersection, and also do some striping to kind of create a bulb out or a curb extension where there's that really wide radius on the southeast corner. During the school day, it gets really parked up. Students that are walking along Alameda there often will walk south and then to where the street gets a little more narrow, come right back up after they cross and continue on their way. So that is a project that will be getting striped hopefully by the end of this calendar year, weather permitting, and our maintenance crews backlog permitting. But one of the things that we did or explored while we were scoping this project was reached out to the school to ask if they were interested in doing anything like a street mural at that location, and the art teacher there jumped right on it and had a lot of experience doing street murals as well. So he started as a design competition with his students, and they did a lot of engagement over the summer. And this just a few weeks ago, they went out there and took them a couple days to get the whole project done. I mean, they really exercised their imagination and came up with a big, beautiful landscape there. So if you haven't seen it in person, I encourage you to go check it out.
Great.
Okay, and then, so those are the two projects we have that are currently in motion from Safe Routes to School. The next slide just shows a little snapshot of past Safe Routes to School projects in this neighborhood. So traffic calming. Traffic calming is a very typical project that Safe Routes will do, oftentimes in school zones, but also in other places where we collect data that confirms that speeds are much higher than we are hoping to see them, where we know students are traveling. We also did marked crosswalks and ADA ramps, Siskiyou and 72nd. Another intersection reorganization, Sacramento, and is it Brzee or Breezy? Thank you, okay. Yeah, I've always struggled with that. And then of course, 82nd Avenue has some crossings, included in that as well. Yeah, so that's just a snippet. I really encourage you, if you're interested or curious, to just like stay abreast of what Safe Routes is doing, both whether it's in education or engagement or in infrastructure. Our monthly newsletters have a little bit of everything. And we also like to use those as an opportunity to highlight folks in the community that are doing a lot in their schools to support kids getting to school safely, walking, biking, transit, carpooling, or doing park and walk. So if you know a like local hero in your school community, please let us know so we can reach out and interview or feature them in our newsletter. Okay, that is about all the content that I had for you all, but I'm happy to take any questions. Yes.
Hannah on the Zoom said, thrilled to hear about these safer pathways for kids to get to school. Just a question on budget, is the 88,000 just for one crosswalk and curb extension?
Yes, really good question. And that price tag does seem high for that treatment. The 88,000 was the budget that we had allocated originally to that location. And Chris knows all too well that we did a lot of work trying to identify what level of improvement we could do in that location. And ideally, with the 88,000 as more of a planning level estimate, we thought we would be able to do a concrete curb extension and ideally fill the gap in the sidewalk that's on the receiving side of that crosswalk. Ultimately, that was not going to be possible because of the really high price tag and a requirement that we now have to always build new ADA ramps with any new crosswalk. And that doesn't just mean the ADA ramp, like at the east and west side of that intersection, but it would trigger then the next ADA ramp on the north side of that. So it starts to expand the scope to just an infeasible level, and the budget really crept up. That being said, if and when the day comes where we do have more funding and that kind of funding available to build that out, or a different project or program does, we have now advanced some designs and actually know a lot more about what are some of the challenges and design needs for that location. So survey's been completed. We have a better understanding of the stormwater needs as well. But great question. Yes.
I'm curious if there's been any post-mortem, so to speak, on the change to the one-way on 72nd through the golf course and how it's put the traffic around the playground and around schools. Because now 82nd, you can't turn in there, and going up 60th, they have the food carts. Kind of clogged.
Yeah. That's a good question. We do a lot, as PBAT, do often evaluate projects for their impact, or to at least understand, are they achieving the goal we had? I did not work on that particular project, so I would have to check with a colleague, but and understand what kind of traffic impacts they might have assessed. But I can say that at least for the 77th and Alameda project that we worked on, any other projects that we have done in this vicinity, or other work we've done closer to the middle school, we always collect data. We collect new data to understand what are the speeds, what are the volumes, and that informs kind of how we kind of develop new projects. But and if we do traffic calming, for instance, 3 months later, we come back and assess, are we seeing the speeds we'd like to see? So that's kind of a long-winded answer, but the short answer is I don't know about that particular location, but I'd be happy to follow up with you. Wanna- Anything else? Yes,
I have one question. So, Safe Routes to School, you've identified, I think the number was like 800, projects, right? How is that number, now that you've identified that, is that number changing? Are you coming across like new projects that are kind of popping up? Or what does that really look like?
yeah,
Repeating the question, just so folks on Zoom can also hear it.
yes. The question was about, the remaining projects that we have, you know, almost 900 projects remaining, kind of, well, you tell me, so are they, as we move forward, is that number likely to change? Are we reducing projects, adding projects? It is likely to stay pretty similar. That being said, I mentioned we're doing this refinement over the next year. And one of the things we're looking at is locations where we've identified sidewalk gaps on both sides of the street. We are removing one of those and keeping one line because we know that a higher priority is getting a sidewalk on one side of the street for our program. We really, and scoping even which side of the street it will be may end up changing just based on other constraints that we can't foresee. So that's particularly the case far east Portland, where we have a lot of streets that don't have any curbs because it's even more complex, or in District 4, so southwest Portland with a lot of topography challenges. So in that case, sometimes the number of projects is decreasing. There are occasions where we have other colleagues in our bureau that learn about a traffic safety issue that is not a project we have on our map, but it's on our network where we know students are traveling. And if we can verify as well that our school and our district thinks that that's an issue, and it's a reasonable amount of money, and we do have funding that could be a good fit for it, we might add that to our map because it's actually something that our engineers have already vetted and have a design solution ready to go. So on occasion, a project might get added in that way, but it's pretty rare. That is, yeah.
So the other day, my wife and I were out for a walk. We came across a crosswalk on one side of the street that actually led up into the middle of the street. That's where it ended. Speak up the people we need to talk to about that.
Yes.
Actually, it started like this on the sidewalk and then just went like this and left.
Huh.
If somebody walked that, they'd be literally be in the middle of the street.
Yes.
So they give up us or.
Yes, if you identify locations where there's a non-urgent safety issue, which that sounds like, you know, exactly what this is, but it's in the right of way, it deals with pavement markings or signs, we encourage you to contact 311 and they will route that request or the concern to where it needs to go for our engineers to investigate or to our team to investigate. So I really do encourage you all to use 311. Those folks are excellent. And yes, I'd be curious to know more about that location. We can talk offline or separate. But yeah, really good question. Okay, so who are we calling when you identify traffic safety issues or emailing? Good. Okay, great. Thank you all so much. I think I'm handing it off to my colleague, Julia Reed, also from PBAT, and Paulina from TriMet to talk about 82nd. Thank you. That's the last.
Oh, my.
But it's that short.
Sorry about that, okay.
No, that's. Good evening, everybody. My name is Paulina Salgado. I work at TriMet, the first coordinator, and my colleague Julia Reed from Quebec here, and we're here to talk.
Speaking so
We're here to talk to you about the 82nd Avenue Transit Project. Is that better?
yes. This one might be better. Good.
Sounds better.
Okay, yeah, I can hear. I don't know if you heard, my name is Paulina Salgado. I'm from TriMet, Julia Reed from PVAT, and we're here to talk to you about the 82nd Avenue Transit Project. Has anybody heard about the project? Okay. I'm glad to see a lot of hands raised. Pretty much, you can go to the next slide. What we're looking to do is to replace the line 72 that currently goes from Clackamas Town Center and it goes all the way to Swan Island. So we're looking to replace that with the new FX system, like the one that we have on Division Street. The buses, I don't know if you seeing the ones on Division Street, are those green big buses. They are faster and more reliable. There are 3 doors, one in the front, in the middle, and in the back. Once, let me talk a little bit, I guess, about why we're doing it on the line 72. The line 72 is the highest ridership line in the system for TriMet, but it's also one of the lines that has the most cumulative delay in the system. The stops are placed really close to each other, which makes the buses stop very often, and then it gets stuck in traffic, and then people can't get to where they need to be on time. So that's why we're looking to do it on the line 72. You can go to the next. One of the things that we're doing is we are consolidating some of those stops, like I mentioned, that they were placed really close together. So we're gonna have 68 platforms with shelters, seating, real-time information, lighting. We're also gonna have enhanced crossing at every station. We're gonna do some sidewalk and curb ramp and accessibility improvements at each station. And we're also working on, we're gonna be having the transit signal priority that is gonna help speed up also the bus. This is an example of a shelter that we have on Division. I believe this is 34. As you can see, there is the shelter, there's the weather protection. These buses have higher capacity because they are 60 foot long in comparison to the 40 foot long that we have right now. Like I mentioned, because there's 3 ways to access the bus, it makes it a lot faster for people to get in and to get out. There's a tapping where people can pay in the front, in the middle, and in the back. Some of the tools that we're using to speed up the bus, like I mentioned, is the transit signal priority, having the higher capacity buses. And just with some of those tools, the bus right now is going to be better about 8 to 9 minutes faster than the current service. The next one. Some other tools that we're looking at that can help speed up the bus is having business access and transit lanes or bus lanes. So pretty much what this is, and I don't know, Julie, do you want to talk a little bit? Please.
Sure. So these bus and turn lanes, the idea is to help the bus be a little bit faster, a little bit more reliable. PBOT and TriMet are considering converting the curbside lanes on 82nd Avenue, so the ones that are next to the sidewalk, into these bus and turn lanes. So that would be places for vehicles that are it's such a turn lane that buses can use to go straight. We've evaluated a few different ways.
to apply these to 82nd Avenue and looked at what the transit travel time benefit would be and what the impacts would be in terms of changes to auto travel time and diversion onto adjacent streets. So the two that you see on the screen here, one of the options is applying these bus and turn lanes north of Tillamook and south of Foster, and the other one that you see is more of a continuous treatment. And these are scenarios where we end up maybe somewhere that builds off of one or both of these. So I want to make it clear that first, no decisions have been made about whether or not where bus and turn lanes would be on 82nd Avenue. Under the more BAT scenario, some percentage of people traveling by car would choose another travel route instead of 82nd Avenue. Longer trips would go to 205, and during the busiest times of the day, so in the afternoon, up to 25% of trips would choose an alternate route, like 205 for longer trips, or go to Lombard or Gleason, or other larger roads that would see increases in line with daily variations. Our modeling did identify a few local streets that would likely need traffic calming mitigation, and if batons were built. Two of those streets in the Roseway neighborhood are Northeast 72nd and Northeast 74th. We're planning to monitor these locations and apply traffic calming measures such as speed bumps to slow traffic and discourage traffic from using cut through routes. There's currently a project on 72nd to implement some of those measures. I know my colleague Amy Phillips has been here to talk about 72nd Greenway in the past, but one of the things we want to do, or one of the reasons we're here, is we want to hear from the neighborhood association what questions and concerns and comments you have about the idea of bus and turn lanes on 82nd Avenue. So I just pause there to hear questions, comments from you all. Yes.
I have one. It's kind of a catch-22 because I'm all about public transit, right? I'm a big bike rider myself. And I see these numbers at the bottom, 15% of traffic more likely to use other streets and 20 to 25. In my mind immediately goes to a lot of the traffic that I see, not necessarily on 82nd, but Sandy, is coming from Washington, right? Like folks that might not even use these buses. So I kind of get a little antsy or fearful of just like any more people using other streets aside from these main drags, right? Because we're already seeing our neighborhoods kind of get pretty busy with this alternative traffic, especially in like the busier times of day. But I don't want to be a total hater either, because I'm all about I'm all about public transit, you know.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm kind of trying to unconfuse myself about this. I'm confused about what TriMet rolled out initially. Clackamas to Swana, and now they're coming up with the Express, and then 2 weeks ago, the plan was even modified again after you some pushback from businesses on the 82nd. So I'm kind of confused over what all this is, how this is all shaking out, because it sounds to me, I ride mass transit as well. But it seems to me like you're making the spaces between places where we can wait further apart, which is exactly what TriMet did downtown. And as somebody who has vision problems, I'm really concerned about that, because getting from one place to another, wait for a bus, is not always a good thing on 82nd. So
Yeah, several good questions there. I want to respond first to the question. Yes.
Please make sure you repeat the questions.
Yes. Okay. So the first, I'm going to respond to the part of the question that was relating to the process and the comment about what it is we're doing here, and the acknowledgement that there's been a lot of press about the bus and turn lanes on 82nd Avenue. We are, in the process of gathering public feedback, watching our democracy work. Part of that has been that as we've been talking about this project for about 2 years, and recently it's gotten a lot of press and a lot of, activating a lot of folks who are following the by Portland blog, and becoming aware of the project and reaching out and expressing their preference for what they would like to see for the future of 82nd Avenue. At the same time, we've been engaging in, we had a citywide survey that we did in April. We knew that at that time that we didn't hear proportionally from business owners on 82nd Avenue. And we also learned that we didn't hear proportionally from the folks who live right around 82nd Avenue. So coming to the neighborhood association meetings is part of our process to hear from all of the folks who are connected to 82nd Avenue. I want to let Paulina answer the question about the stop spacing.
The one way that one of the reasons why we're consolidating some of the stops is to make the bus faster. And I know that from the very beginning, when we started the planning process and we did outreach, that was one of the concerns that we heard from the community, from some members of the community, that the stops might be a little farther and it might be harder for some people. We also heard in the same meeting, we heard some people, you have to close more stops, make it even faster, right? So it's hard to make it work. But in average, pretty much we're closing the stops that have the least amount of ridership. We're keeping the ones where we have the most connections to other lines. And like I mentioned, the ones that have the least amount of ridership. And that's one of the reasons that this project comes with sidewalk improvements, so that it's safer to get from one stop to another stop. And we're also coordinating and working with our partners here at PVAT and their project, the building of better 82nd, which they're already doing a lot of those improvements on 82nd.
I was at Daniel High School when you first presented. Okay, and I'm just concerned that what happens starts as something very good, turns into something where the commercial group becomes the larger focus of this is all that. I'm having a hard time understanding why you're saying it's a small population that might have trouble getting from the other. I mean, I'm 76, right? I have vision problems, and I know a lot of folks that are in wheelchairs. So for you to say that, gee, it's just, this population can't serve everybody, that is exactly how it's supposed to be served. The people that depend, not just because they want to, but they depend on mass transit to get from one place to another and get there safely. So I'm concerned that this is getting lost. And then, again, when I was a part of the group that was looking at when you was planning the downtown stops, and I saw the same thing happen. I saw space between the stops grow twice as large, and I saw people with canes falling down. No. So I don't want that to happen. I want this to be something that's going to work for the people who use transit. Businesses, we all use the businesses as well. And I'm just concerned that that's getting lost.
There are two comments on Zoom. I don't know if you want to address that or.
I apologize if I made it seem that we don't care
No, I'm
about
not saying you, not at all.
or like China doesn't care.
I apologize if it seemed like it was attacked.
No.
It's my frustration, and I know that you guys work hard. I worked with TriMet on a committee in 1972. Okay, when you were, just before you were rolling out stuff to have all the different the students involved. So I understand what the vision is, but I'm just concerned that it's getting lost. And not only you guys are doing a splendid job trying to stand there and represent this, and I know that's what you're doing.
Thank you. We do, I do want to mention that we work with our CAT committee, which is our, Committee for Accessible and Transportation. So they do, we provide, updates about the project and they give us their feedback as well. So we do hear from them as we move forward with the project.
Have you worked with Commissioner White?
I believe
The
with,
CAP is not the same at all, and CAP does not represent all of the disabled community at all.
believe as we move forward and we are working on the stations themselves, we will be working. I know that we work with them during the Division Transit Project.
Good question?
Yeah, all right, I think she had a question.
So I was just gonna say, on these 15 to 25% of traffic are being used on the street. But this arrangement makes it harder or impossible to use those other streets.
This is, up to 15, the percentages on the, map refer to the busiest time of the day. So this is the maximum amount of diversion from a second that would happen. So this is happening in the PM. The PM peak is a lot, busier on 82nd Avenue. So this would be in the afternoon time when more people are traveling around.
And it seems like that compounds it. That now if I can't get up to the golf course, then I have to get here and I have to get there, but I can't get across the street, it just backs it up even more. And it's frustrating. And I will say that what it said here is, oh, the cars will only be 3 to 4 minutes slower. But you're saying that the bus will be 3 to 4 minutes faster.
Yes.
So is 3 to 4 minutes good or bad?
Depends on your perspective.
It's
And this is why we're here, because we want to hear from the community that lives around the area. Because like Julia mentioned, no decision has been made yet. We are going to be presenting to our Policy and Budget Committee on November 7th. We're taking all the feedback that we're hearing from the community, from the business owners, from the neighborhood associations, from all the engagement that we've been doing. We're taking it to them. They're gonna have a discussion. They're gonna hear everything, and no decision probably will be made at that meeting, probably not until December or January.
Just 2 comments on, the Zoom. Sharon said, you will need to revisit all businesses on Northeast 82nd Avenue to get the impact information, and specifically was curious, like, which businesses have been spoken to, and how businesses have responded. And then Hannah said, also echo the appreciation for public transit. However, Roseway is already used by dangerous speeding drivers trying to avoid backups on Northeast Fremont and Northeast Sandy. And as a thoroughway throughway for Northeast Columbia to 72nd up to Sandy. Drivers speed 40 to 50 miles per hour on our side streets. That should be 20 miles per hour. So the 15 to 25% more traffic on side streets is concerning with the BAT lanes. Would these existing issues be part of the consideration for PBOT?
Yes. Can you repeat the streets that were mentioned, where speeding is an existing problem? Did you get?
It was Sandy, yes.
She said speeding drivers trying to avoid backups on Northeast Fremont and Northeast Sandy, and as a thoroughway from Northeast Columbia to 72nd up to Sandy. And then she also said all the streets around Northeast 72nd, Parkway blocks, Northeast 72nd.
Okay. The beginning part of the question, I believe, was about business owners and asking how we are reaching out to folks. So we have done in addition to the citywide survey that we did in April, after which we learned we hadn't heard proportionally from the business owners we wanted to hear from more of the neighbors that are directly adjacent to 82nd and to make sure that people understood the trade-offs that are the benefits and the trade-offs of this proposal. And we've done mailings to the neighborhood and the business owners, and we are in the process of having one-on-one conversations with the business owners, particularly ones who also have a median that's proposed that may restrict some of the left turns happening into businesses away from signals, because we know that that is a significant contributing factor to the serious and fatal crash history that we have on 82nd. So we're having ongoing meetings with those business owners to both understand their access needs and to come up with solutions that are addressing the real pressing safety issues on 82nd. And the comments about the concern about diversion on those specific streets, we've noted. And this is exactly the type of information that we want to hear from neighborhood associations, because we've done our modeling to show where we think cars will go. But there's a lot of unpredictability in traffic, and folks who are living in the neighborhood, you're seeing what you're like these existing conditions and things that could be a problem in the future. And that's helpful for us to know, to share that with our engineer staff. So take another look at this. What are options that we could use to mitigate this problem if it were to become worse in the future with the addition of bat lanes, if bat lanes are constructed in this neighborhood.
I just want to know, Roseway has a lot of intersections, four-way intersections with no stop sign. That's an issue. Also, that's through impatient drivers moving through there. And I can confirm the speeding, especially. There's a lot. Really, 50s, it's not now.
Thank you, Pauline is noting that.
I think we've got time, we need to wrap up, so maybe if it's quick, we've got a couple more, if not, can you all stay? We've just got a few announcements to kind of wrap things up, and then, so if we can't get to everybody, then we can have some time for a little bit of mingling and making sure that any specific things are noted to y'all after that.
Yes.
Okay, so why don't we do Oakley, and then, are y'all okay? Okay, great, thank you.
I just wanted to say I'm really excited about this project. I know there's a lot of my concerns here, but I think overall it's going to be a huge improvement in figuring out traffic problems for people. A lot of people who aren't here tonight, not young people. There is one young person here. I'm going to to talk about what this is going to mean to all those kids that use the bus now to get to the game.
Yeah, so I can't go to Preston and basically be in a lot of my pocket. That I think it's gonna influence your friend about and how comfortable. And I was wondering honestly if there's ways for students to get involved in the project and put input about stuff that I know here a lot of we've done and it's really helpful and cool if there was you
Yeah, we actually had a meeting with the principal, McDaniel, to see, and with one of the teachers to figure out a way to involve some of the students that want to or would like to be part of the project. So do you want to, we can follow up afterwards.
Can you kind of paraphrase what she said for the people on the?
Oh, sorry. She is a student from McDaniel High School, and she's very excited about the bus project because she believes it's going to bring a lot of improvements for the students. And she asked about ways that students can get involved and be part of the project, maybe with one of the stops.
All right, yeah.
And it looks like, so in addition to our guests sticking around generously for any additional feedback, there's also up here on the screen an email that you can share any other thoughts or comments if there are things that come to you later or you weren't able to share out today. So yeah, let's give one more round of applause to our wonderful speakers for coming and sharing, and yeah. It is a tough job sometimes to collect community input. So thank you so much for being here today, and thanks to everybody for your excellent questions. That's what this is all about, to get community together and share these updates. I'm assuming you're all very excited to know the board election updates. Oh, yeah, okay, so can I get a little bit of a drum roll, please? Ta-da! Okay, thank you. I'm very excited to note that Chris and Sarah were both reelected to the board, and Saul and Courtney were elected as well, so unanimous vote all around. We are so thrilled to have a couple new faces join us. Thank you to everybody for voting and participating in that. We are, yeah, I'm so excited to have you join us on the board. And later this week, Chris will send you all a welcome email to share a little bit more for what to note coming ahead. And then that's gonna close out our evening for today. As I mentioned, we don't have to be out of this wonderful space until 9 p.m. So please feel free to chat and mingle. This is something that we like to make sure to carve out a little bit of time for at these meetings because sometimes we don't talk to our neighbors if they're not like right around us. So please feel free to stick around for a little bit, meet somebody new, chat, and share any other additional comments or feedback with our lovely presenters. And we hope to see you at one of our upcoming meetings. Our next general board meeting will be held on November 14th. That winter solstice party is on December 20th. And meet us back here for that next community meeting on January 27th. And all of those are on our calendar. So thank you so much. Oh, and I forgot to mention that we are recording this for our friends on Zoom, and so we will post this on YouTube with all of the presentations. So if you're like wondering what something was or want to see something in more detail, all of those links will be there. And if you've got friends or neighbors that really wanted to be here tonight but couldn't, or are super passionate about some of these transit projects, you can direct them to this presentation that will be on YouTube as well, so they can follow along. All right, that's it. Thank you so much, everybody.